the Hemi 6, the greatest Australian Chrysler engine ever. Ho ho ho, here it goes. Okay, well, that's fine. Oh, there we go. Right around the beginning of 2022, I foolishly purchased a completely dilapidated 1969 Chrysler Valiant Ute, located in the bush in Australia. The plan was to fly to Australia in late August, then spend a month going hard, wrenching on this thing to try to get it through Australia's strict inspection. Then, the plan was to road trip the thing to Australia's Burning Man of Ute shows, the crazy party known as the Denny Ute Muster.
At Denny, there's no rules.
Nice warm babies.
This was going to be my toughest wrenching project yet. Here's the main kangaroo hunting ute. Ultimately decided this thing is done. This thing, forget about it. It's just too messed up. So the parts vehicle became the main vehicle, and the Hemi 6 that we initially bought was completely munted, as they say here. So we need to find an engine. Yeah, it's still gonna be a sprint to get this done in time. Look at this. $900. And here are the parts I ordered. Almost 1,000 Australian bucks worth of parts. His secret weapon is here, Gordo. He's kind of weird like that. Ain't that right, Gordo? You're a wiring man. Let's have a look at some of the problems here. As you can see, the insulation has just gone. We've now wasted a lot of time because Laurence forgot.
Oh, I forgot. Oh yeah, here we go. David is the man who took these wheel nuts off and then proceeded to just leave them on the shed floor.
And the result is, we came all the way to this workshop and we can't get this axle out.
We've driven nearly 50K.
We're getting our first look at what we hope is going to be the engine for the project here. We're here with Laurence, and of course, Laurence that you all know. Laurence is showing us where the engine was sitting for 18 years.
Yeah, it was buried just right there in that hole.
Oh my God.
Exactly there.
Here we go, some exhaust stuff.
Oh yeah, look at this.
That's perfect.
Dude, this is a pretty feral looking bull bar. Look at this bull bar we have.
It's a bit Mad Max.
Extremely Mad Max.
What a haul we got. Look at this. Freaking, we got an engine, we got exhaust parts.
All right, moment of truth. We're gonna see if this motor we bought from a mud pit in a shed is any good.
So far I've seen worse.
Even though we turned it over by hand, when we got it back into the garage, it wouldn't turn over 360 degrees and the cylinders were rusty. This was the third engine that was Cactus. Okay, we've got 11 days before we need to get this thing inspected. Come on, you beefy king. I've only eaten 3 cookies all day. It's just this intense focus and it's bad, but I have work to do. And I'm dealing with some serious bullshit. Like, look at this here. See those 4 bolts that hold the leaf spring bracket on? There's an access hole for it. As soon as I try to loosen them, they break. 4 broken bolts from the other side. We are prepped for the big day, the 13th, where we install the entire suspension and steering system. So we're in a good spot. Okay, so another day. We got a lot of work to do today. We're gonna head out to Laurence's mom's place, do a lot of suspension work. But before that, I'm by myself here. I'm just gonna bang away what I can do on my own. I gotta say, we only have 10 days left and the Ute is still looking kind of like it did in the beginning. Oh shit. Oh crap, oh, I guess I was lying. There is something in the engine bay. Oh, look at that thing. Oh no. Oh boy. I guess I need to capture this thing. Strong and bitey box. This box is not big enough. The spider's like that big. It'll barely fit in this box. Oh, this is nerve-wracking. Okay. All right, we've got the Ute up on the hoist. The spider has dropped off. See that thing? Look at him! Holy crap, he's just running. See, that's what makes these things scary, is that they're fast. And look at how it spreads out like that. Damn. Look at him. Hud over here is laughing at me because this is his everyday life. He deals with these huntsmen every day. And meanwhile, I had to make this contraption out of a broomstick. But check it out. Huntsman spider extraction complete. You know, he looks small now that he's captured. There he is, look at him. See, nobody wants to touch him.
Nobody run up my arm.
Exactly. Like, even Australians don't want to touch them, but...
We'll move him on, but we won't touch him.
The big aim for the next few days was to install the suspension. Just getting the car to sit on its wheels would be a moral victory in some ways. We'd have to cut off the wheel bearings from the rear axle shafts before installing them into the big rear axle, which would hang off of some leaf springs, which would need new bushings. We'd also have to install the front suspension, and that means those big bars that act as springs as they twist. It's quite interesting. And we'd replace the universal joints on the rear drive shaft before bolting it up to that rear axle and to a transmission, assuming we ever found an engine for it. There was a lot of work ahead. Good stuff, Laurence. Oh, you got him out.
Yeah.
All right, Laurence is removing some bushings has removed some bushings from the leaf springs. Mm-hmm. So we can actually take care of this whole leaf spring, right?
Yeah, this one's good to go. We just need to press out that other one, but we just need to get some extra tools to do that.
Things are going well because my trusty Big Orange from Detroit, which has undone many a leaf U-joint, is undoing some more U-joints. You got to remove these little clips to get the U-joints out.
Come on, Big Orange, do the job for us.
Big Orange, show us what you're made of. You've seen way worse than this.
Yeah, looks correct to me.
The issue is that this thing barely moves. There's very little motion in this. We're gonna get some. Oh, wait, hold on.
No, she's close. Yeah, you'll get her.
Yeah.
Yep. Game over.
Big Orange, yeah, getting it done. And now it's big hammer time, and we'll be set. Let's be smart here. Oh yeah!
Out she goes.
Look at that.
Ooh, I've seen a lot worse.
Okay, so this one's very bad.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll take these out. So these are universal joints. The point is to allow for power transfer between a stationary thing, which is a transmission, and a moving thing, which is the axle. This is the drive shaft. Transmits power from the transmission
to the universe.
That's why it's called universal joint. We didn't exactly get our entire suspension in like we were supposed to today.
No.
Tomorrow's the 14th, Wednesday. That's roughly 9 days before inspection. So tomorrow we're gonna try to install the rear axle. We're gonna do our best to get the whole front suspension in. If we can do that, we'll still be in okay shape. All the rear stuff, we've got brakes rebuilt here, bushings in one leaf spring. We gotta press one out here. And then we'll have the leaf springs ready. We'll bolt that up. We've cleaned up our U-bolts. We'll bolt the rear axle up tomorrow. Will be no worries. I'm gonna reseal this transmission tomorrow. So we're doing a lot of stuff at one time.
If we can get a lot done in the next day or two, we've got the weekend that we can absolutely smash out everything else.
Okay, right now I'm painting a bunch of suspension parts. It may seem like a pointless thing to do, given that the car looks like that and I have no time. Anytime you have to go through a rigorous inspection, appearances matter. Laurence is removing this hitch and then the fuel tank because we're replacing it, and then we'll pop the rear axle in. So hopefully today we have a rear suspension in place. I am pressing out a bushing. Watch, this is a violent process. That sleeve has been basically rusted into this leaf spring for about 60 years. Oh! There's a bang. Oh. Come on. And. All right, you can see it's a metal sleeve with a rubber bushing in it. It's been in there for over 50 years and it's really seized in there, which is why I had to use this press. So you saw me press that bushing out. I just shoved a new bushing in. Here's the old one. Not in too bad shape. This is half of the old one. Put one half in one end and then you put the other half in the other end and then you shove a metal sleeve in the center. On the other side, it's a little bit different. See these two bushings right here? I'm gonna lubricate these a bit with some high performance bushing lubricant. You know, I wonder, is the lubricant itself high performance or is the bushing high performance, you know? It's an ambiguous, this is ambiguity. High performance bushing lubricant, okay. You just put in one half like that, shove it in. The old wrist hammer does the job. And you flip the spring, and you just throw the other half in. Boom, we got new bushings. The inspector's gonna be impressed.
She's pretty stuck in the arm, so we'll just have to keep going.
There it is.
So there's the grease boot.
Look at this. It's just a bar with a hex on each side. Wow.
Yeah, so it's just anchored on two ends, essentially. And the whole thing that holds them in is there's a little groove just here. This is essentially what holds them in. And then eventually a bit of friction and age as well, which is why we had to give them a couple of taps.
Can't believe a tiny little metal clip holds that. That is the spring of this car. Just a bar.
Just a bar.
All right, look at this. I'm here with Laurence. We are installing the rear suspension of this here Ute. I'm trying to take this lower ball joint off with this pickle fork. And as I move the pickle fork, the suspension moves up and down, you can see. Now notice, when I hit that sort of fake bump that I'm making here, the torsion bar will rotate. You see that? Well, you can see this wants to rotate here. And so this twists, there's a hexagonal shape in here that prevents this from rotating relative to this. When this rotates, this is the control arm, this will rotate, and that twists this big bar. That's our torsion bar. And that bar is fixed onto the body on that cross member by another hex. Anyway, let's hammer the shit out of this until it comes off. Come on. All right, we're gonna try to take this control arm out. Laurence got the ball joint out. He hammered it a lot harder than I did.
That's all good. Oh, this one's coming quite nicely.
Look at that, it's all in the wrist. Look at that. Everything's sliding really easily.
If you hold the bar, that'll then knock the bar out of the arm. So hold the bar and then knock this. Yep. Perfect.
Look at that.
That's it. That's it. Yep. We just have to. Yep. Done.
Look at that. Torsion bar extracted.
Incredible.
Well done.
All right, so these are actually probably the biggest bolts in the whole vehicle, huh?
I'd say correct.
They're holding the whole front suspension and engine in place, so, and it's only 4 of them.
Yeah.
Modern cars do it the same way. They're held on by just a couple of bolts, and suspension mounts to it, engine mounts to it. It's a very simple way to load up an engine and suspension into a car all at once.
Just all one unit, yeah.
Yeah.
Going up.
Nice.
Story of our life.
Look at that. Subframe suspension is gone. All right, that took 5 ever, but it's in there. Go ahead and throw the boot on.
We might need to get a little tool just to finish her off, but otherwise, that's one arm done. Now spend the next 2 hours on the next one.
We're in the process of pressing on some new bearings on these axle shafts. We've already done one. Look
Here's
at that.
one we prepared earlier. Look
how
at that.
nice that is. New bearing, new sleeve. We got the axle in here. The bearing is being held by these 2 blocks, and we're simply pushing down on the axle. Shaft is going into the bearing and pressing in. It's lovely.
Yep. There we go.
It's time to install our axle shafts. Please go in. Don't give us any BS. Just try to keep it off.
Don't need any grief today. Oh, there she goes.
I'm tightening the axle to the leaf springs right now. So basically, I'm hooking up the drivetrain to the suspension in the rear. Most of the suspension you don't want to tighten until the vehicle's on the ground. These U-bolts, it's fine. We've installed the rear axle. I'm gonna clean this diff out a little bit more and then fill it with gear oil. I'm installing the brake lines that I made with Laurence. Brake line flaring is not a fun job, I will say. I do not enjoy it, but these are just the rear axle. We have to make a whole nother line all the way to the front, and then we have to make up the front lines and the junction block lines. It's gonna be rough. But for now, let's have a small victory and install these. About to install the shocks on the rear suspension, and the rear suspension will be done.
Yeah, just patching the bottom where there's holes in the bottom. Because I didn't cut the top out and put proper floor pans in it, I've just overlapped it. So I'm just cutting the pieces of rust out and patching this side because the inspector will put it on the hoist and look to see if there's rust holes. Mainly this side was real bad, the driver's side. There. I'm going to cut that out and put another piece up.
Can I do this without a hammer? That's the question. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's nice. Easy.
There we go. There we go.
Look at these. Brand new shocks. The Ute was really coming together. We were running into small issues, but it was nothing we couldn't handle. Except for the engine. We'd gone through 3 and none of them worked, and we didn't really have a solution yet. Look at that. Yeah, we were using this bull bar
As a counterweight.
when we installed the rear axle. The whole Ute wanted to tip like that. So we've got the carburetor here. What are we doing with it?
Yep, so I just got a Holly 350 that I've pulled off an old engine. So we're just checking it to make sure that it's functional. You can see there, it's got the accelerated pump squirt,
Nice.
which is important.
Saturday morning, and it's a special day. Laurence just surprised me. We're headed to the hardware store, and we're taking the Mighty Boy.
The only vehicle you need for a hardware store run.
It's so perfect. Look at it. This is a relatively small Subaru right here.
I've got about a 9.5 foot.
Everything is tiny. Like, the fronts of these cars are lined up. Actually, the Mighty Boy is about a foot behind it, and like 3 feet at least. So the engine is how big?
500cc.
500cc. Okay. Let's do this thing.
We made it.
We're here to get our hardware, and more importantly, to get our sausages at the Sausage Sizzle.
It's time for a snag.
Look at that, hardware store snags. All right, we just picked up some paint, some bed liner, and a door stop from the hardware store. We're using the door stop as a jounce bumper for our inspection. The next stop gave me something I badly needed, a bit of hope. At this point, I was already multiple weeks into Project Cactus, and the chance of me getting it ready for the Denny Ute muster seemed close to zero. There was just too much to do and too little time. But then I learned something about the neighbor, Hud Johnston, who had been coming over all the time to weld up the bed and floorboards. Turns out he can build these. What great luck. The neighbor in this tiny Australian town was a custom car legend. Just knowing this gave me hope. Maybe we can pull this off. Hud Johnston, the legend, is showing us his shed here. You made this complete by yourself, huh?
Yeah.
What'd you start with and
Basically, just a frame, and then you acquire the parts, but you've got to do all the work on the frame, like box it, different K-members, cross members. Normally it comes in a C-section chassis, so you've got to put all boxing plates, you've got to make all the motor mounts. We radius to all the door corners, they're all square. Nose, all the front like 34, bottom we made all the side panels. It's got a 32 Ford drill shell. We ground all the cast marks off the block. I cut all the AC brackets off the block as well, it's normally there.
Oh yeah.
Ground it all smooth, primed it and painted it, like just so you got a nice finish on everything.
That's
and
awesome.
The same on all the alloy stuff, like the intakes was all raw cast alloy, and we just sanded it all and polished it. The cylinder head's the same.
You sanded this and made it look this
Yeah.
nice?
Yeah. take all the roughness off, and then you got to finer paper to get it all smooth, and then polish it.
Because this is cast aluminum. This intake?
Cast aluminum.
Normally, yeah, this is really rough.
Chunky. And that head's normally cast aluminum too. I've ground it and polished it.
Wow, you know, again, like these are normally really, they are really rough.
Like that Valiant motor.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you look at this, he basically.
Really, that's cast iron, but
Cast iron, yeah. You see all these cast marks here on the side, like he ground that off.
It's just to get a nice finish on it because it's so visible in this car, the motor. Same in the bell housing, it was cast alloy, done the same.
If you don't know what a bell housing normally looks like, do you have a bell housing sitting around? Because these things are not pretty at all, generally. A cast aluminum bell housing. Hud really made it look pretty, and that must have taken forever.
It did take a little while to do.
That must have sucked so bad.
Yep. Not as much as grinding the engine block. Grinding cast iron sucks. It stinks, it smells, it gets everywhere.
The vinyl stripe is different.
It is different.
I'm into it. These are modern seats. You plan on taking this on, actually driving this far, or?
Yeah. Yep, that's the plan.
So do you have an engineer who's approving all of the modifications?
Yeah. Do some brake tests and handling tests, and it's about $2.5 grand for a hot rod. So that was my first car when I was 16. Got me L plates and that, learners. F100 we did, me and Dad. It's chopped and changed around. An FJ highly modified as well.
Wow.
That's back in the early days when he was a young bloke.
Explain this here.
Shed skids.
Explain the shed skid concept to Americans here.
Oh, it's just what you do. You got to do a burnout in the shed.
Who said you got to do a burnout in the shed?
Oh,
You have to.
You have to. It's just.
It's mandatory.
Oh, your neighbours might get a bit upset with the noise and smoke, but other than that, the fire brigade don't turn up. It's a good day.
So this is your first car. This is the Falcon, huh?
Yeah, I sold it to a bloke and he wrote it off.
You've got a nice side you can put on the
I'm
wall.
gonna put it on the wall.
It looks, honestly, it looks pretty awesome. I see what you liked in this. This is a beautiful machine.
It's gonna eventually have a small block Chev and made up chassis and something a bit different.
The concept for this,
Is out there.
it's out there, and it's gonna take a while to make that happen, huh?
It is, yeah. Just priorities first, get Dodge done, and then see what we do. This or the Valiant next. Or...
There's a concept drawing for the Valiant as well.
Yep.
So you've got a lot of wild projects in place.
I've had to move everything out of the shed to make room for customer jobs, but
This is the start of a project.
yes, it's the start of a project.
To me, it doesn't look like there's a lot here.
There's not a lot there, but all I need is I just need all the panels. I'm making a roadster out of it.
Oh, that's what, yeah, that, okay.
I
Look at how narrow that is.
I've fattened it up a little bit since then.
So when you develop the concept for these cars, is that what you do? You do some cutting, you start sort of putting pieces together, and
You can. Plus, I can use Ross.
Ross over here, incredible artist. Is that a Ross piece?
Yes,
That's what we're wanting to do with that.
Yep.
Wow, look at that. That is what we want these Valiant pieces to turn into.
Yeah. You got to imagine a lot, but we can get it there.
Or you could just look at Ross's artwork,
Yep.
which, by the way, he drew this incredible cartoon of my Valiant. We'll just paste that in this video now. It's just amazing. I haven't actually seen this thing up close.
Yeah, 1958 Dodge. I had it.
Isn't this how you look at your engine, everyone? You just take your parts of your hood off?
This Vauxhall chassis, new motor mounts, Rodtech front end, 408 small block Windsor, Tremec TKO 600 gearbox, strange alloy 9-inch in the back.
So are these Dodge trucks common in Australia?
Yeah, they went to Dodge, then they went to Fargo.
So you're building this to hold a...
Yeah, hold a motorcycle. Going to build a custom motorbike using a Volkswagen engine. It's just sitting in there at the moment because I'm just balancing up to see what I've got to do to get it to work.
This is a Beetle engine?
Yeah, it will be, but I'm going to use a bit bigger. I'm going to use a 1600 modified.
A Beetle engine in a motorcycle? That's awesome. What's this?
Was like your early 60s Ford in America, like Falcon. But it's got 1950 Ford sheet metal on the bottom, but it's all been sectioned and custom made, like single spinner Ford.
This car means a lot to Hud because he began building it with his dad in the 1990s, merging a Ford Falcon XP Coupe with lower panels from a 1950s Ford single spinner. Australian law on custom car building became complex and costly, so the duo had to sell off the body, but Hud, through pure chance, managed to track it down 30 years later. This drawing from his talented brother-in-law, Ross, shows Hud's dream for the car.
What are your plans for it?
It's like a GT40 version of the Falcon. The ultimate would be to mid-engine it and go GT40 orientated, but very expensive to do that. My father was a panel beater by trade, then left Sydney and come up here, and then he just specialised in doing custom work like roof chops, two-door conversions.
That Chevy from the Australian classic movie Running on Empty that Laurence and I watched earlier had actually been converted into a two-door by Hud's dad.
So you became pretty well known,
Yeah, it was.
Were you always working with him?
Yes, all the time. Come home from work and it was every afternoon, every minute virtually.
I mean, we have to have the most overqualified floorboard welder, rust cutter outer in the history of a car build. I'm like yanking a rusty exhaust pipe.
Hang on that.
You gotta be close. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Just trying to see if I can shock it a bit.
Yeah, let's just keep hammering it down. Cleveland's finest never disappoints.
Okay, I've got that. To get it in, I have to clock it.
And then I'll get this, the clock itself.
This is such a...
And that should be it.
Wow, so that's how you install the springs on an old car. Oh, there. Going in nicely.
In she goes.
Look at how buttery that goes, huh? The steering spindle. We'll be able to actually get this vehicle rolling for the first time in like a long time.
There we go.
Balancing off the back.
It's a valiant thing.
Come on. I need a hammer.
That's it. Not quite in the service manual, but it'll do.
Okay. We got something on there. That's good.
Cool.
We got Ross and Hud sitting in the Valiant, weighing it down so that we can compress the suspension and get the spindle lined up. Look at this suspension. Joanne has worked some magic on this. Holy cow. Look at this. The paint has come back from the dead. So you reckon the black will come off most of this? I mean, it just did. I mean, shoot, that's awesome. Incredible.
Look at that. You put a bit of polish on that, she's brand new.
I mean, I don't know about that, but yeah. After 3 bad engines, Laurence finally gave in and decided to offer up the orange-topped engine that had been sitting in his garage the whole time. The engine that he'd been planning to put in his own car. I will admit that I was skeptical that this engine was in good shape. I'd heard it all before. So we hooked up a couple gauges to the thing and we turned it over. We were looking to see above roughly 80 PSI on all cylinders and that they'd all be around the same. And that would mean it would run okay. And we wanted the oil pressure to be about, I don't know, 10 PSI or something while turning it over. So we threw a screwdriver against the starter motor and cranked it over.
We got my spare 245. I was going to put in my Ute. We're compression testing it now. If we get oil pressure while we're spinning it with the starter, we'll just see how we go. So
this is because our first 2 engine options were, how would you describe them?
fucked.
So far we have 60 PSI and then...
190.
190. Okay, these 2 are good. We might not get any. That one might not run that well. Maybe it'll burn oil. We'll see.
105.
Oh, 105. So the engine is attached to the bell housing because the starter motor needs to bolt to something and spin the flywheel, which we bolted up as well. All right, let's go to 5 and 6 and see what happens. We have to eject the pinion from the starter motor and then spin it.
Yep.
So one of these is spin and one's eject. If we were smart, we would just wire them together and just, but we're not, so.
What was that? Almost
Dude,
125.
holy crap.
That one's happy.
We might even get into the triple digit horsepower with this thing.
Woohoo! Let's try door number 6. Same again.
Excellent. Okay, we have 60 on the front cylinder, not ideal. You want to try that one more
We'll give it a
time?
retest.
Let's give it one more
Give it a retest. No, 75.
That's a passing grade.
It just needs a shed skip.
I'm thrilled with this engine, I have to say.
Yeah!
That's
More than 10 in a quick spin, and that's
like
slower.
300 RPM. Dude, we got a motor, my man. I'm
Hey!
pumped. All right, we're coming to the end of this Saturday. This is the Saturday before our inspection week.
Yeah, we got about 6 days to try and just pump this thing through.
We're about to head in after a long day, but before that, we're gonna get the steering set up. So Laurence is installing the pitman arm. When you turn the steering wheel, there's a steering column.
Yep.
You turn the steering column,
It converts it down.
and it will rotate this shaft right here. And this pitman arm, all it does is it turns a rotational motion of a shaft into arc motion, which is then translated via tie rods.
Yep.
And the sort of the left-right motion of the arc is what turns your steering wheel.
So we just got to put in this drag link next. So we hook it up to these, and then we put our tie rods on, and done.
Let's just go through everything we've done today. So suspension, front brakes have been installed, shocks, control arms. We got front suspension. We have an engine that works, which is awesome.
Yeah, we actually have compression and oil pressure.
Callan came over and fixed our hood.
You know, that's a walk in the park, man. We can do it with these eyes closed. For
yeah.
us, MIG welding is still, you know, rocket surgery. Oh, we got some free bump stops. Handbrake's just about done. We just got to connect that up.
We're gonna put a powertrain in tomorrow.
Probably run the brake lines as well.
All right, let's conclude our steering installation.
Drag link is in. We're connected to our pitman, which is on the steering box. Our idler, which helps control the drag link.
Nice.
Go. Now we're doing the drinker's side.
That's the steering box. The shaft coming down from the steering box
Straight down.
is moving this pitman arm in an arc, but to us in the front, it looks like left and right. And that is moving this thing, the drag link, left and right, this big thing.
Yep.
But that's not connected to the spindles. That's why
Tie rods.
he's installing the tie rods. Nice, look at this.
There we go.
Whole steering system's in. Tomorrow we're just gonna go through all the torque specs of pretty much everything.
Yeah, we'll just get a very rough, you know, quick and dirty alignment, and that'll do for now until we take it to a tyre shop.
Let's catch some Z's. Big day tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm coming up on 3.5 weeks here in Australia working on this Ute, on these Utes. It's been so much work. It's so much work. And there's still so much to do. In the next week, we gotta get the engine in, the transmission in, the driveline in, the brake lines run, the electrical system working. Actually, the hardest part is ahead. How cool is this, right? What exactly did we just have made in the shed?
Yeah, it's got a cam button made up. So I had one I'd bought, but it was a little bit too short. So it was going to move around in the camshaft. So we've got another one made, just a little bit longer.
So that's to make sure the camshaft doesn't ram against your timing.
That's right, yeah. Prevents cam float and just, yeah, stops it wearing the face of the block, and eventually you lose oil pressure because the cam bearing's starving.
The smallish town that I'm staying in has everything one could possibly need. A welding legend, Hud, and machinist here, and then of course, we got you know, this guy over here. So
This bozo. This week on American Hot Rod, where David builds a hot rod with a trowel.
look, this isn't our proudest moment here. We're using some bog, as they call it here in Australia. That's Bondo, folks. Darn tootin', we got some filler going in. This is some high-end body work right here.
That's the go, yes. You know, we'll give these a quick sand and we'll throw some paint over it and it'll just look good.
Did a little bit of sanding just so it wouldn't look too globby. And now it's time to put some paint down. Look at how spackly this is. It's kind of like a bed liner in some ways.
You're telling that. This is some good stuff.
It's Monday of the week that I'm supposed to have this thing inspected. The Denny Ute muster is a week from this Thursday. We've made a lot of progress. Suspension's in, steering is in, needs to be tightened up. The underbody has been undercoated. Check this out. So for today, we've got two big tasks. The first one, I'm gonna be sealing up this engine here. So that means replacing pretty much all the gaskets except for the rear main seal because we think that's gonna open up a can of worms. Just gonna replace the valve cover gasket, the Welsh plugs, timing cover gasket, side cover gasket, oil pan gasket. I'm gonna put the thermostat in, the water pump, the manifolds. I'm basically gonna dress the engine and then hook it up to the transmission, which I also went through yesterday. And then we're gonna drop that into the vehicle later today. I've got the torque specs I need here for the engine. So let's just get to it. That's clean oil. All right, I'm installing the thermostat. Okay, I've got a little layer all the way around. Let's pop this sucker on there. Okay, so this is gonna sit like this. See, this is a bad design. This flange here, where the thermostat sits, should be in the engine. You should not have to seal your thermostat against your thermostat housing. That's just dumb. Thermostat's installed. There it is. Our oil pan. Looks mostly good. All right, let's take this old oil pan gasket off. I want to show you what Laurence had made up the street. It's this little cam button. My experience with oil pans has been, you gotta freaking seal them up real good. Do you see a light on my head? Installation of the oil pan. This is a part of any build process that doesn't get covered because it's the boring part, but it takes a lot of time, and that is just making parts runs. Laurence here is eating the most legendary Australian engine of all time. It's Barra. The engine was named after this fish.
Yep, so the Falcon's technically a bird with a fish heart.
A bird. Can I try some?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes. It's so good. I can taste the 98 octane. We gotta get this pilot bushing out. The move is you shove some white bread into the hole, and then you just ram a rod inside. And the white bread tries to flow, but it can't.
Yep.
And it pushes the bushing out.
Fluid dynamics in action.
Oh, son of a bitch. Let me get that big ass hammer. I have faith.
It's back to flush.
I think it'll do it.
Now we're talking. Oh yeah, look at that. There you go. Nothing but net, baby.
Oh, that's so great. The old bread trick. Bushing insertion.
Actually, wait, one of those drivers might work.
That's pretty good.
Flywheels only go on one way.
Sometimes you'll get it right, and then you'll look through the hole and you'll be like, I don't know if that's quite right. But it is.
Exactly, yeah, it can drive you a little bit mad.
Here's the process of installing a clutch. It's not a graceful process.
It can be a little awkward, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to turn that around.
That's it. I'm gonna crank these down and then pull that out and then clutch is aligned. Man, I feel weird putting the clutch in with a 1/4 inch drive. That one's slipping out.
That's probably enough of that.
Here we go. Hemi 6 installation. Dude, what a legendary moment right now. The Hemi 6, the greatest Australian Chrysler engine ever. Ho ho ho. Here it goes.
Here's the fun part. We're pretty close on the rad support. Okay. So you hold on to the block.
Yep.
We've got to really watch that front.
Okay, there you go. Okay, well, that's fine. Oh, there we go.
We're nearly there.
We are nearly there. Okay, we gotta come my way. Here we go.
Down slow.
That was not slow at all.
That was not slow.
Lower it just can you go the tiniest bit?
Yeah.
Really little. Okay, stop.
You're nearly there.
Yeah, go ahead. Lower it all the way. Just gradually. Freaking awesome. Perfect timing. Yeah, you know, we had the engine in here the whole time. Welcome to the bane of my existence. I am making brake lines. You can see they go from the master cylinder to the junction block. It's a bit of a weird bend because they have to go down and outboard. We should have front brakes by the end of the night. We'll install the transmission and hopefully we'll have brakes and a running engine. Laurence is undertaking the unenviable task of installing the enormous rear brake line. Look at this, look at these bends he's put in.
6 meters long.
Laurence is installing the throw-out bearing.
There we go.
Nice work.
Ready to go.
Now we install the transmission. Okay, what are we doing?
I'm basically holding it, you're pushing it in.
Okay.
Oh, that felt good.
We have a piece of wood and a big hammer.
All right.
Ready? We're going to force this in with some longer bolts.
Okay. Gotta rotate it a little bit if we can. So we put some 1/4 inch bolts in there with washers and nuts, and we use the engine crane to lift it just slightly, and we just tighten it and pull it in.
And then eventually we could put the right bolts in.
Yep, poor man's puller, but it works. Peoples, we now have the full drivetrain in, so gearbox is in, cross members in. We're going to nick the bolts out of the Tottenham ute, so these ones are just placeholders for now.
Look at this.
Nice new uni joints that Dave's put in. Drive shaft is in. This is actually an automatic drive shaft. There's enough give there that should not be any dramas.
Yeah, look at this.
Yeah.
This is it. The whole drivetrain is in.
A little bit more painting in the back, just before we put the fuel tank in, but...
Brakes are almost entirely done. And then from there, it's cooling system, body parts, electrical system.
Manifolds. You know, you just got to follow the pieces. We already know where most of it goes, so it's just put it together. It's just a big puzzle.
So it's Wednesday and inspection's on Friday. Today I have a lot of stuff to do. I'm gonna make a big list, but it involves finishing the brakes, installing the intake and exhaust manifold, tightening up the steer. It's just a huge list. Just to give you an idea of how far we still have to go. Okay, fender we can install, front end, okay, radiator we gotta do. We still have to install the rear brake line, still no steering wheel, there's no dashboard, there's no windshield. Rhino line, the floor here. The electrical system, we've absolutely done nothing with it. Oh, this stuff is incredible. It's like a freaking machine gun of Sikaflex. Okay, we're gonna lower the car onto its suspension for the first time in a very long time. Wow. Thing sits low. We haven't really adjusted the front suspension, so that's not really where it's gonna sit. Look at all those brake lines. We flared and bent and all that. I'm bleeding the final brake here. I can see the master cylinder as I press the brake down. If you look, you can see as I press the pedal, that little bottle fills with fluid. There are no air bubbles in that little hose, so that tells me that that brake is officially bled. It's time to adjust the brakes. So these are drum brakes, and they need to be adjusted so that the brake shoes are just right up against the drum here. That way you don't have to push the pedal really far down to get stopping. I'm going to adjust that screw. I'm turning it until I start to notice some significant dragging. Yeah. Feels awesome. Brakes are done. Just trying to get that crease back.
Yeah, get it back a bit. And
Yeah. You know what, Lawrence, I gotta say, today has been a pretty fruitful day in many ways. We've got the wheels on,
We have suspension.
steering's tightened, we've got the brakes all working. Lawrence has painted the rear end here. There are a bunch of little things that were done as well. Hud banged out a big dent that we had right there, so the fender will fit nicely. Ignition timing, the distributor's in, the alternator's in, the fan's in, did the oil change, spark plugs are in, spark plug wires are in. The radiator, excitingly, has been tested and is actually good. The transmission is officially bolted in. We have a shit ton of work to do, but it's 7 a.m. the day before inspection, and I don't need you to tell me that it looked like shit, because I already know it. Lawrence has been out here even before me. He's
Fuel line's in.
look at this crazy bastard. Fuel line's in. You are a freaking Lawrence, incredible man over here.
Nearly ready to go.
Today is gonna be a crazy day. Inspections tomorrow, and the car looks like this.
And it's a public holiday.
I guess we got like 24 hours, huh?
Yeah, exactly. We still got the shop for 24 hours.
That's right. Lawrence is tightening up the top of the dashboard. First time this vehicle's seen a dash in probably a few decades.
Probably at least a decade and a half, I'd say.
How do we get stuck into these things?
Hey?
How do we get stuck into these things?
you know what it's like. Got to help somebody out.
Look at that.
Now it's a car,
Yeah.
you know?
It looks like a car someone owns.
Before it was just some metal. Freaking awesome, man. Check it out, we've just installed the fuel tank.
Got this nice extendo. She'll tighten up a lot. We're not in yet. Like, she'll go up to here. Nah, no big
Heck
deal.
yeah, awesome. We got Lawrence putting together the clutch.
Call that Z-bar over here.
Z-bar, yeah. Z-bar in the US as well. And then Hud is threading on, looks like that main pipe from the exhaust manifold.
Work out the exhaust on it.
We're removing this grill here from the primary car that became the parts car. Okay, this is a big moment. Whoa.
There she is.
Oh, the color is amazing. Kicking ass, Hud, as always. Look at this.
Out with the old, in with the new.
These are turn signal lenses, right?
Yep, and the park lights.
Oh man, these are gonna be beautiful. They're right on top of the fenders. Oh. Okay, I'm under the dash right now, trying to pull this wiring harness through this really small gap, and just nothing's fitting. And I'm on my back, you know, under dash work is the worst. You know, let's keep moving. Inspection day was tomorrow, and things were dire. While we'd been trying to adjust the column shift linkage, Lawrence had fractured the cast aluminum steering column. Could not be welded together. It was broken. And on top of that, he realized that the fender on the passenger side was the wrong fender and wouldn't accommodate our headlights or grille. So we had no steering and we were missing a fender. It was a huge setback. Even if everything had gone perfectly, I don't think we would have made inspection tomorrow. But this was a slew of tough setbacks, and it put the entire project in jeopardy. Okay, so tomorrow's inspection, as I said, not going to happen. The mood is a little not quite as positive as it was earlier today. Lawrence is trying to stay positive, just covered in filth. Just look at this guy. And I'm under this dash getting absolutely destroyed. I don't want to go under there, but yep, that's what's happening. And And I just know there are going to be so many shorts. Actually, it looks pretty good, man. He's put the lower valence on. Some sort of psychological success just to keep us going, you know? We're all kind of in a less than optimal mood because we're taking a lot of steps backwards. The wiring system is rough. Our steering column's broken. We still haven't heard this engine run. Any number of assorted things could still be an issue. These manifolds could leak, for example. And we gotta figure out this electrical system tomorrow, see if we can fire this motor up, at least drive this car in first gear, and then figure out the column after that. We were hoping to have this done by tomorrow. And frankly, we're not even close. The carburetor hopefully will run okay. We gotta tune it, we gotta do timing. The exhaust still needs to be welded. This fender has to be removed because it's the wrong one. Any parting thoughts, Laurence? You can hear me?
I can now, loud and clear. On a scale of 1 to 10, your body inside feels like $1 million, or 1, it's a cactus inside you. How do you feel right now?
Overall, my body's at like a 3. Mine is at like a 1.5. You know, this was a project I wanted to do, but there's a good chance that I'm not going to be able to execute, and it's not good because it's such a time
50? I mean, are we below 50-50 at this point?
Oh yeah, we're definitely below 50-50.
Oh, so you're in a big uphill climb right now. Have you scheduled the inspection?
Yeah, for today. Every step forward that we took a big step backwards. A good example. Great, we have the exhaust system installed. Wonderful. But we broke the steering column, and it can't be fixed because it's a cast piece in there that you can't weld up. So the column is broken. We can steer, but we can't shift gears. We found out that our fender on the passenger side is for a different car. So the whole front end, the headlights, the grille, they don't go on here anymore. If you can't mount your headlights, you're never gonna get through inspection. We're gonna have to paint over top. So we gotta paint that. We gotta figure out the whole wiring situation. We have to replace this fender with this one, which has to be patched. We have to replace the steering column. And we still don't know if this engine runs. The guilt that I feel, it's like, I have to pull this off. I have to, but it doesn't look like I will. And it's eating me up inside a bit, I have to say. Stay tuned for the finale of Project Cactus, where I'll either be at an airport with my head in my hands, apologizing to my coworkers for spending 5 weeks in Australia, or I'll be headed to the greatest Ute party in the entire world. It's a huge spider, but Australia has shaken me. Shaken me.
That's fine. We'll work that out.
We'll work that out.